River inside the river. World within the world. All we have is words to reveal the rose that the rose obscures. Poetry is so many things, and it does so many things. Who can generalize about it? With an impossible number of caveats, then, perhaps as many caveats as there are poets, I submit for your consideration, at Jesse's request, a sort of primer for hearing Tenny's poems tonight. The matter has already been most succinctly condensed, for me at least, by this quintain, this 5-line poem you just heard from Gregory Orr, River Inside the River, in which poetry is positioned as language that reveals spirit. Language that reveals spirit, the world within the world, the way things only appear to us so successfully disguised as themselves. There is another world, wrote Rainer Maria Rilke, one of Tenny's many muses, but, he continues, it's the same as this one. He's got a point, Rilke. The language that reveals spirit is almost never abstract or otherworldly. As you will hear in Tenny's poems tonight, it says things like willow, oak, lake, swan, mother, father, daughter. Things of this world that move us and delight us, and finally resist us, and which will always mean more than we can say. But poetry shows us the ways that matter has mattered to another, in a way that matters now, again, with the sudden force of revelation to us, the reader. Here I want to follow a hint in one of Tenny's favorite artworks. You're holding a version of it in your hands. Gustav Klimt's Beethoven Frieze, so luminously laid out on the cover by Megan Arlen. As with much of Klimt's work, the frieze draws on techniques of ancient Byzantine iconography. Do you see it? The gold leaf, the symbolic figure flattened against an unadorned two-dimensional background plane, the stylized suggestion of inspired ecstatic visions beyond the literal. To read Tenny's poems, I believe, is an invitation to what we might want to call iconic seeing. That is to say, along with the ancient and medieval thinkers, Tenny's other set of pre-modern muses, that matter is the form spirit takes, the house of being, and therefore all matter participates in the holy. In the language of Armenian orthodoxy, to see iconically is not to see pure spirit or to see God himself. What would that even mean? It is rather to see all things in God, all things shining with the original light of their creation. This iconic seeing is, for me, an ever-present aspect of Tenny's poems. In Klimt's frieze, however, we cannot miss the bandeau, fashioned around the lyricist's head, a piece of headgear iconic now in a different sense, which we would instantly recognize as belonging to the proto-modernist Art Nouveau movements of the century's turn. The flapper-muse hybrid evokes a spirit of art for art's sake, which also animates Tenny's book. Remember the old F. Scott Fitzgerald collection, Flappers and Philosophers. Tenny read her way to an unlikely common ground that the French symbolists and decadents shared with the ancient Hebrew sages and scriptures, the place where what the philosopher Iris Murdoch calls the absolute for-nothingness of the work of art emulates the radically free, gratuitous act of God's "let there be," and there was. Or to put it another way, To say, as I have said, that poetry is language that reveals spirit is not to say that poets like Tenny write to reveal spirit. Poets write, it seems, for every reason and for no reason at all, because they can, because we are free, because sometimes you just feel like singing. You must sing in order to be found, Lee Young Lee says, and when found, you must sing. Tenny felt this imperative in every aspect of her being, in the mornings of sunshine and in the evenings of shadow. It's there in the book. Surely poetry is not the only medium in which we can sing. Surely words are not all we have to reveal the rose that the rose obscures. And just as surely, poetry so often does the exact opposite of what I've just been claiming for it. Poetry is also a concealer, a keeper of secrets. It is language allied with silence, with the unsaid, with the mostly empty space of the page surrounding it. Poetry conceals as much as it reveals, and perhaps this is why we instinctively trust it with so much of our secret selves. Thomas Merton once wrote that a person is a person insofar as he has a secret and is a solitude of his own that cannot be communicated to anyone else. If I love a person, Merton explains, I will love that which most makes him a person: the secrecy, the hiddenness, the solitude of his own individual being, which God alone can understand. I want to end then with a short poem about hiddenness, which is a dialectical impulse I also feel running through Tenny's book. This one is written by another person I both know and don't really know at all. Christian Wyman, who for one life-altering decade or so, suddenly and improbably found himself installed as the editor-in-chief of Poetry magazine, while at the same time falling in love, fathering twin girls, and being diagnosed with a grim and incurable form of blood cancer, a matter of when, not if, his doctors explained. Late at night in the basement offices of a Chicago office building, as Chris tells it, he would read through reams and reams of the magazine's rejected poems, going back 100 years, some of them, each one a message in a bottle that never washed ashore in another mind. Given the near total certainty that none of the poems we write, none of the memories we make, none of the lives we live will stick around very long, a generation or three, if we're lucky and beloved, a few dozen generations maybe if you write like Shakespeare. What can something so insubstantial, so hidden as a poem really mean or matter? I hope you'll see why I thought of Tenny here as I read these closing lines, with their quiet, clear-eyed faith in the abiding mysteries of language, beauty, and being, and why tonight I'm so grateful to Jesse, to Emma, to the Arlens for putting together this book, this reading, because sometimes all we have are words and the silences that surround them. Chris's poem to close my remarks is called Varieties of Quiet. Varieties of Quiet. I quote from a poet no one knows, and no one knows me too. If by chance happening here some far year when I am not, it matters, I tell you. It matters, the matter one mind collects, one memory protects. When memories kin to that wordless feeling, words open in your head. Varieties of quiet. Varieties of quiet. There are many, friend, as many as the dead.